As a finance professional in a disrupted business landscape, what does it take to be in demand? What does it take to attract great paying international roles? If you're an ICAN member, it'll just take one exam. That's all it takes to complete the globally recognized SEMA professional qualification and the internationally respected CGMA designation. As a SEMA member and a CGMA designation holder, employers will look at you as a finance professional, constantly acquiring new skills to add value to the business. That's why they'll be willing to pay premium to hire and retain you. If you have 5 years of relevant experience and are an ICAN member, you can directly sit for the final exam of the SEMA Professional Qualification, the Strategic Case Study Exam. Start studying the SEMA Professional Qualification. Prepare to make an impact.
Good evening from Lagos, Nigeria, to our professional colleagues, our friends and students of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. And once again, it is my pleasure to welcome you to another episode of ICAN on Air, the great platform for learning and powered by our noble institutes. Myself, Tosin Akinwumi, and Fumi Olani will be bringing this program live to you today. So get across to your friends, tell them their program has commenced, inform them that the show has begun and they can join us on ICAN social media handles, the Facebook page, Instagram handle, and the ICAN YouTube channel. And today, Thursday, 22nd June 2023, we are considering and we are moving on the part 2 of the topic, reforming tax administration in Nigeria. You remember last week, we had the executive chairman of Federal Inland Revenue Service join us on this topic, and he actually provided lots of continue from where he stopped last week. However, before I bring him on board, I want to tell you, I'm sure you know, that this program avails you the opportunity to learn and continue learning. As such, let us partner with this program. Let all professionals on board partner with this program such that the reach of this program can go global and we can all enjoy and keep on enjoying all of this program. So sit back and relax, and I'll be right back with my guest after this time out. Stay tuned.
As a finance professional in a disrupted business landscape, what does it take to be in demand? What does it take to attract great paying international roles? If you're an ICAN member, it'll just take one exam. That's all it takes to complete the globally recognized SEMA professional qualification and the internationally respected CGMA designation. As a SEMA member and a CGMA designation holder, employers will look at you as a finance professional, constantly acquiring new skills to add value to the business. That's why they'll be willing to pay premium to hire and retain you. If you have 5 years of relevant experience and are an ICAN member, you can directly sit for the final exam of the SEMA Professional Qualification, the Strategic Case Study Exam. Start studying the SEMA Professional Qualification. Prepare to make an impact.
Tax from Max. Pay your tax online. That is the easiest way, to pay your tax.
Companies income tax, value added tax, tertiary education tax, pay with tax program, for returns when due, pay your tax correctly, and get your e-tax clearance. Pay your tax online.
My better people for Obodo Nigeria, I don't bring better information come give you now. To pay your tax now, it don't dey easy like ABCD. With this new Ogbonge platform where the Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS) don't bring come, then they call them Tax Pro Max. With this one, now for your house or office, you go just dey pay your tax. And if you want pay your tax, make you log into www.taxpromax.firs.gov.ng. This message now the Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS) they bring them for now.
Pay your tax online.
Yes, you are welcome to the program. And I have in-house here the Executive Chairman of Federal Inland Revenue Service, Malam Muhammad Nami. You are welcome, sir, once again. It's glad having you on the show. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir. It's good having you again on this show. Like I did say in the introduction that last week, we couldn't actually cover all about and our audience kept on saying that we need to have part 2 of this show. And actually, it's fine that we will speak with you and you actually give your consent to come back on the show. It's glad to have you. Fumi, you are welcome. And we are back on with Mr. Muhammad Nami to speak on tax reforms. You are welcome, Fumi.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you so much, Tosi.
Okay, so we take it from where we stopped last week. The truth of the matter is that there has been a continuous decline in oil revenue, and this has invigorated interest in growing non-oil revenue and diversifying the economy. And tax, being a major non-oil revenue source, provides a more stable and predictable flow of revenue to the government. And that's why we could be talking about tax and tax reformation. So I'll be starting this way with the first question to my executive chairman. So it's good to have you on another edition of ICAN on Air. And last week we did speak about the work you have done since you're coming into office and the pockets of reforms that your management team has achieved in the short span of less than 4 years. And this week we want to talk about what the future holds. So it brings me to this question, sir. You speak a lot about reforms. Why do you think Nigeria's tax system actually needs reform?
Thank you very much and for having me again and for giving me the opportunity to bother your members with issues of tax payment and why they need to pay taxes, and to also discuss issues around reforming tax administration in Nigeria, which you have classified as part 2. Yesterday, last edition, we gave you a rundown of what we have done to get to where we are currently as a service, and we concluded deliberation that day on the real issues that centered or that centers around reform, tax reform itself. So, to get back to your question on why I think there should be reform in the Nigerian tax system, I think the simple answer would be the entire way of life, or there is a complete change in our way of life. And if there is a complete change in the way we live as people, from the political perspective to social perspective, and the main one that has to do with us, which is the business model, then there is also the need for us to change the way and manner in which we also carry out our tax administration in Nigeria, and therefore the need for us to also reform our processes in line with the new way of doing business, considering the political and social implication of business and the way of doing things by people. The second reason is that every country in the world continue to reform their tax system to reflect the item one I have discussed, which is the way of life of people that have changed. And you remember that we have had several seminars around this, particularly on the issue of inclusive framework, that is pillar 1 and 2 of the OECD. So even the advanced countries, because the way of life has changed, continue to remodel their tax system in a manner that reflects the way and manner people currently do business. Number 3, that is key also for me to mention, is that our tax laws are very, very, very old. Well, remember, I gave an example the other time to the fact that some of the tax laws have been placed since 1900, 3006, e.g. the Stamp Duty Act. So such laws and the currencies then were denominated in kobos, which currently are not used for purpose of transacting business in Nigeria. Another key thing that is critical is that the population continues to grow. The need for social services and critical infrastructure continue to grow, and therefore also the need for government to have more funding or funds to be able to meet up with this obligation. Another key thing that I want to mention is the fact that manual tax administration practices are actually no longer tenable or are no longer working. Somebody that is doing business with his business partner across many borders, right from Nigeria, you cannot keep track of such a business using the manual way we were doing it in the past. If somebody is raising bill, if somebody is transacting business online real time, you as tax administrator cannot rely on the manual processes or wait until that person brings you papers or records of those transactions before you are now able to track what they are doing. So you need to come up with a modern way of policing businesses and transactions that are done online. And that is why we're talking about reforming our taxes in line with the trend that is ongoing by way of innovations by businesses, people in technology. And that is why we also have now deployed technology in the course of our business.
Intelligence. Thank you so much, sir. I mean, we've seen all of this technology that you have mentioned. We can witness it, and we know filing deadline is very soon. So a lot of people are on the platform right now. You know, you have genuine concerns, and we all have genuine concerns, and you have raised some of the things that you think is important for all the taxpayers to be aware of, and we definitely agree with you. But you know, as a leader in tax, you have executed quite a number of reforms and changes at the FRS and in the past 3 years and more that you've been there. What would you say are the underlying principles that should govern tax reforms in Nigeria and, in fact, in any jurisdiction?
Well, the tax administration or tax administrators globally should be in a position to provide a platform for voluntary tax compliance. And for you to be able to achieve that, you have to develop simple and clear rules that will be easy for people to understand and to aid taxpayers to comply with the relevant tax laws. And also, those rules are supposed to be transparent. You also bring in transparent processes to help in people trying to comply with the relevant tax laws. Number two, that is required is that as a government or as a tax authority, you should be in a position to be able to promote economic growth. That I mean is that you should be in a position to talk about issues of multiple taxes. And we're so lucky that we have a new president who, in his inaugural speech, is concerned about multiple taxation in our economy. So the excellence of the swift measure is trying to adopt to fix the multiple taxes is to ensure that we're able to promote economic growth. If the informal sector players, for instance, that are subjected to multiple taxation by tax, miscreants, and self-imposed tax agents, can now identify that probably Kaduna State Government or Federal Inland Revenue Service is who they pay their taxes to, and this is the simple, clear process for them to follow. You realize that the miscreants, the self-imposed tax agents and touts will stop disturbing them, and it will mean a lot to the informal sector players. So the issue of multiple taxation should be addressed we intend to address that and to be able to be fair and provide a fair playing ground to all taxpayers. Then, if you are able to do this, if you're able to make the voluntary compliance process a voluntary one with simple and clear rules, you're able to promote economic growth, and there are more money in the hands of taxpayers. Then they will be in a position, they will grow to become taxpayers, a big taxpayer in the future, and then they will now be in a position to pay taxes as and when due, and the end result is that there will be sufficient revenue yield for the government. So what we intend also to advise government as far as sufficient for them to be able to get this sufficient revenue yield is that we talk less about taxpayers, so that they are able tax waivers, so that we're able to moderate the tax waivers that we give to companies, and also make sure that we address the issue of comparable tax rates. What I mean by that is that we come up with reforms that will align our processes and tax rates with what is obtainable in the international community, and also do it in a manner that we're able to put a process together by carrying out a comprehensive review of the current multiple taxes that we have as a country, and seeing what we can do to reduce them to a minimum of about 4 or 5, so that the government is able to eliminate the other tens of levies and taxes that end up in private pockets. So these are the things we want to put in place, and to ensure that there is sufficient revenue in the hand of the government, both at the local government, the state, and the federal, so that they're able to provide the needed infrastructure, the needed social amenities, and able to secure our lives and property.
That's a great one. That's a great one, sir. Thank you very much, our Executive Chairman, for that great response regarding the question. If you are just joining us on this show today, this is your show. This is our show, ICAN on Air. And today we are having the second part of the topic, reforming tax administration in Nigeria. And we have in the house the Chief Tax Officer of Nigeria, that is Mr. Muhammad Nami, who has been dissecting the topic and who has been talking all about tax reform since the commencement of this program. Let's quickly go and pay some commercials. Let's go and run some commercials. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Tax from pay your tax online. That is the easiest way, to pay your tax.
Companies income tax, value added tax, tertiary education tax, pay with tax program, for returns when due, pay your tax correctly, and get your e-tax clearance. Pay your tax online.
My better people for Obodo Nigeria, I don't bring better information come give una. To pay your tax now, it don't dey easy like ABCD. With this new Ogbonge platform where the Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS) don't bring come, then they call them Tax Promax. With this one, now for your house or office, you go just dey pay your tax. And if you want pay your tax, make you log into www.taxpromax.firs.gov.ng. This message now the Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS) they bring am for now.
Pay your tax online.
Security is key to national development and growth. No nation can be truly economically successful without peace and stability, or when its security is threatened. This is why we must perform our civic obligation of duly paying our taxes so as to provide the needed resources for government to secure our lives and properties. When we pay our taxes, government is provided with the needed resources to equip our security agencies for a safer Nigeria. The money we pay as taxes is used to purchase equipment and hardware, invest in intelligence and other sophisticated technology, as well as cater for the welfare of all security personnel. A secure nation is a prosperous nation. Nigeria is safer when we pay our taxes. FIRS, it pays to pay your tax.
You're welcome to ICAN on Air, and we are still here with the Executive Chairman of Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Muhammad Nami, and we've been talking on reforming tax administration in Nigeria. I can see people have joined us from virtually all over Nigeria, Abuja, Benin Kebbi, Lagos, all parts of Lagos, Ibadan, Abeokuta. People keep on joining and joining. Please tell your friends that your program has commenced and we are midway into the program. Send in your questions. The chairman is here to give responses to those questions. Chairman, as we move on in the line of the question, can you please tell us more about the relationship and interplay that exists between tax policy issues and tax law reforms?
Chairman, it appears you're muted, sir.
Sorry.
All right.
Thank you very much for that question. I think let me start by the issues of tax policy formulation. We are working on reform in such a manner that will assist government to have both monetary and fiscal policies converging at a point, so that while the fiscal policy experts or the policy formulators and those that are implementing them are going one direction, the monetary policy should not be going the other direction. So at any given point in time, they should be in a position to institute a lasting process for tax policy formulation, and also a process that will benefit the monetary policy makers. On policy issues, what we intend to do is to, like I said in my last statement before we went on break, that we are going to reduce, we will recommend that number of taxes payable or number of levies, fees, and taxes payable in the country is reduced to very minimum number of about 4 to 5, and then we also try to make sure that we restructure the tax incentive regime in our country. When we all started practice around early 90s, we had a very efficient NIDB called then, that is the bank that is currently called Bank of Industry, that support investors in a different manner from what they are doing today, so that companies in those days build their factories, and the bank of the then NIDB is able to fund the purchase of the plants and equipment needed by those for purpose of producing their product. And from day one, such companies start paying taxes while they have government full support for purpose of the procurement of plant and machinery that they require. So that is the process we want to see government return. That is the policy we want the government to go back to, instead of the outright waivers that we give to taxpayers. And unfortunately, if those waivers are not the likes of Dangote and the rest that are in Nigeria, when they get back to their country, their countries of the country that they come from, the authorities there collect those taxes from them. So we want to see if that incentive regime will be restructured.
Okay.
Then there is a proposal now also that is coinciding with where we are thinking FRS, which is reviewing the administration of personal income tax in Nigeria. Because of the limited authorities that the state have, there is the need for us to now restructure personal income tax administration in Nigeria in such a manner that we are able to give certain threshold to the state to administer, and we at the center administer the threshold that are above that particular limit that will be given to the state. For instance, we could decide to say in our country, any taxpayer that has income of between 1 naira to probably 10 naira, I'm just giving an example, pay taxes to the state, while those ones with economic activities that will generate 11 million naira and above pay to the federal government, because with that, issues of global view of that taxpayer's income will be addressed. Issues of residency contradiction, that we say I'm based in Lagos and this income was earned in Kano, so Lagos state person has not got business asking me for this. All those dichotomy, all those confusions are addressed. And number two, we as FIRS, we work on behalf of the federation. So if there are income that has to do with people that do international business, people that work in other, that transact business in other countries, we are not going to be in a position to be able to reduce those taxes, those income to taxes. Then we will go to issue of tax legislation. I have said that earlier on. We update our existing tax law to meet the modern needs. Like I said, the way of life, the way of doing the business model has changed. So we have to also update our existing tax law to meet with those challenges. Consolidate tax laws into a single instrument. What we have today, you have this, you want to check certain tax law, you need somebody to tell you where this is. So what we want to do, we want to provide clarity and bring them, consolidate the taxing laws into a single instrument for ease of reference, for ease of tax administration, and to provide quick guidance to determine taxpayers, consultants, and other critical stakeholders. Then we also want to do what we call tax administration law. So these are all the things that we want to do in the tax administration of law. We are thinking of proposing to the government to have a single revenue administration authority at the center. Then come to issue of tax policy formulation reform. We'll restructure, we'll make certain recommendations to federal government to restructure certain tax policy formulation in the ministry, department, and agencies in order to be able to have a very sound policy expert in those ministry and ministry, department, agencies to support whatever we do. You currently have a situation whereby you send tax-related documents to certain ministry. They do not have experts that will look at them. So we feel if they have such experts taken from the private sector or from within the government itself and domiciled in some key functions, so that when we're talking tax, they know that this is it. Some of them do not even know that the salaries that are being paid to them, the roads that are being built, some of them do not even know that the security may have been paid currently with the taxpayers' money. Some of them still simply believe that this money is just dropping from the sky. So there's the need for such thing to be done in order for us to move forward in this. And what are the tax policy issues that government should pay particular attention to? One, I've said it before, I'm only repeating it so that there are clarity. We should look at issues of tax incentive. So we make tax incentive targeted and it should be time bound. It's not as if everybody, we have situations today where somebody is building a 5-star hotel, he will now go and get waivers and bring in furniture, that the furniture is meant for this 5-star hotel, and those furnitures end up in the showrooms for resale. So these are things we can't continue to do to ourselves as a country. So these are things that we want to introduce.
Okay.
We probably adopt the imposition of 15% minimum global minimum wage as
Okay.
recommended by the 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 two pillar solution, particularly pillar 2, on instead. So even if you are enjoying this incentive, you should be in a position to pay something, and in a manner that you are supported. So these are some of the issues that we're looking at. On the personal income tax, for instance, I have mentioned this before. If we can come up with threshold and FRS to collect certain amount, then another key crazy one we want to give, and I know we're going to run into serious battle with your members, is that though it is going to be fair to tell everybody, that is the issue of value-added tax. We want to recommend to the government that everybody should be giving input. Every input you have, you get it. But you also pay the right amount that is due from you, so that we look at what is the average value-added tax rate in West Africa, or for Africa
In
itself.
comparison.
So we have everybody pay the same uniform rate as done as recommended by ECOWAS. You have your input, but you pay the correct rate. And issues of saying that this is exempted, this is not exempted, all should be put to rest, so that somebody who is producing product A should not be meant to be paying, and the other person who is producing product B is not paying. So we want to address those inequalities in the system. Then, if you come to issue of company income tax, I have just been specific. We want to see if we want to consolidate all of them, and probably have only company income tax. We'll consolidate all TED fund, NITDA, NASENI into company income tax and have it as a first line charge going forward. So instead of people computing NASENI tax, you compute police tax, you compute this, we just come with a robust tax rate and everybody gets his own allocation. It's not as if this person will go this and the consultant will be hired by the agencies involved to go and look at the adequacy or otherwise of the taxes paid, and the taxpayer continue to be disturbed. On the tax fraud reforms, we are proposing to the government, if the courts are not able to act and dispense with tax cases promptly, the need for them to look into the issue of creating a revenue court, and probably insert value-added tax as an in the exclusive list of the Constitution of Federal Inland Revenue, and then also review the extant tax laws, like I said before, by consolidating the various tax laws into one instrument, enact a tax administration law, reenact FRS Establishment Act, and possibly will come with another crazy initiative. We'll also enact Joint Tax Board Establishment Act. And probably these are few things that we think will make a difference in Nigeria going forward.
Wow, thank you so much. I mean, this should be in a communique to the government, but I'm sure the government itself is listening, and everyone is listening, and taxpayers are listening. And I particularly have a question from a taxpayer. You know, while you were talking, sir, I just thought of something, but I'll just read out the taxpayer question here. Jonathan Iquino, he says, please tell the chairman to extend filing deadlines. Subsidy removal and forex floating are causing significant organizational changes, which are affecting businesses, processes of many companies. But I know you can tackle that with all of the things that you have mentioned already. I believe that we'll be able to, you would have that in mind. So,
I'm
particularly, okay, do
I'm
you want
just
to?
I'm just
Chairman is
a
about to
team.
respond to that. Let's hear the chairman's response.
I'm just a
Okay.
team. What we have as FR is a team of 11 players. I'm just the captain. I don't take decisions alone. So we'll look into that report and the comments and get
Okay.
back to Nigerians at the appropriate time. But that is
Okay.
not to raise their hope that we are going to extend any tax filing period. There are people with the accounting date of November, September 2022, and they have filed and are at one due 6 months after their year of account, the accounting date. So we do not expect those with the accounting date of December to think that we are going to just uh, shift the filing date to another date. We are not giving you that assurance. But for now, we expect you to make your payment or file your returns and make payment by 30th June, which is exactly Friday next week.
All right, sir. While you were talking, you talked about harmonization, trying to bring the revenue agencies together, the MDAs. So, there are reports in the media space proposing that customs and other revenue generating agencies of government should be brought under the FRS. If I recall correctly, I know and I witnessed the second national tax dialogue, which you hosted in 2021. And it was themed tax harmonization. Is this what is at play right now, or what do you really think about that? What is your what would you say about the proposal, and what are the benefits it would have for the general populace?
Well, my only answer would be that recommendation to the new government by its own committee that was set up to look at the policy documents and get feedback from ministry department agencies and also stakeholders amounts to aligning with the theme of our second tax dialogue, which we dedicated to harmonization of the fragmented tax system. This that the recommendation is specifically alluding to that fact. This argument we have been making over time. I can only say that harmonization is the way to go because that is the global best practice. The MOU as we signed with the UK Revenue Authority. We did not sign with UK Revenue. We signed with both UK Revenue and Custom. His Majesty Revenue and Custom. Why that is necessary? It reduces the cost of administration. As you are using just one channel of administration, through this, you also create an ease of paying taxes. So the taxpayers will need to only visit one tax agency, and the ease of just doing business is assured. Another key thing is that you are able to plug leakages and consequently increase revenue in the hand of government. That will only be my comment because it's a recommendation by us during the second tax dialogue, and ironically and excitingly, we received the news that whatever we have recommended to government then, the committee is going further to even recommend some additional ministry department agencies, which as a revenue authority, we should wait until the outcome of the consideration of the current government on whether that recommendation is the way to go or not.
Okay. Mahisi. There's a follow-up question here. In the course of your explaining proposals to government on reforms and all that, you mentioned something about the fact that input VAT will be given to those who have input VAT, and such that they can go ahead to pay the expected VAT out, as in the expected VAT payable and all of that. And you also mentioned in that discussion, in that explanation, that there may actually not be anything called exempted list or zero rated list or something. So, for clarification of our global audience, are we saying that there is likely to be a proposal that could be taking out the exempted list and the zero rated list in the Value Added Tax Act?
You know, there are certain sectors of the economy naturally that requires government support. So the sectors are actually not doing well, and there are also certain sectors of the economy that produce or render essential service. So we're going to leave that to the fiscal expert within the government, together with the monetary policy formulators, to look at vis-a-vis what we need as a country. So we are only making a case for the fact that if Fumi is due to pay tax type A, you, Mr. Tosin, should also be able to pay that tax type, irrespective of where you are resident. We have a country within country in this country as far as tax laws and incentives are concerned. We have free trade zones, irrespective of where they are located. The moment you are there, you produce goods that is taxable or vatable from the Tosin territory. You send into the market, because we do not have the effective mechanism for monitoring. And you send that good there by law. It's as if you are importing, the person buying for you is importing from outside Nigeria. But you said that goods, maybe you are based in Funtua, so that let me be specific, which has a free trade zone and some 100 or 200 kilometers away from Kano. You produce good there because you are in Funtua free trade zone. Good that Fumi is producing in Kano, and she's asked to pay tax on the same type of good. You produce the good and send to Kano without paying taxes. And Fumi, who is there, pays tax and add the value of the taxes she pays on the good that she has produced competitively. You have a competitive advantage over her. And these are the inequalities we want to address. It's not as if government policy is to exempt medical or drugs or medical service, for instance, from VAT or other tax type. We are not going to do that. But if the two of you are living in the same place called Federal Republic of Nigeria, because of certain policy, you are paying tax and she is not paying, we feel that should not be the case, because that impacts on one of you positively, and the impact on the other one negatively, particularly as far as the profit that will be due for you to declare dividend from to your respective shareholders. While your own will be 100%, her own will be short by at least 10% of the taxes that she's going to pay. So we feel those inequalities should not be in a fiscal policy that will have positive impact on one person and have a negative impact on the other.
Okay. That's well clarified. Thank you very much for that clarification. But sir, you really sound charged up and aiming quite high regarding tax reforms in Nigeria. And your proposals are truly ambitious and could actually transform the country's tax landscape. However, there could be some fears. So if I may ask, what do you foresee to be the challenges that could face bringing all these tax reforms to fruition?
Well, there are one or two to three of the challenges that, from my experience, I'm foreseeing. The first one is the political will from all the political actors. Mr. President is a taxman himself. He believes in taxation, and he knows the importance of payment of taxes. He has seen it as governor in Lagos State. He knows what he went through for being denied FAC allocations for many years. So we do know that for him, there's not just the political will. I know there will be the willpower to give us every support to make sure that this reform project becomes a success. But are we going to get it from the state governors? Are we going to get same from the local government chairman, other stakeholders? We will live to see. Then there is another issue of the characters, attitudes, and the resistance of our people to change, particularly when it comes to technology. You recall when we started the year, we started on a clear note. We gave one to taxpayer, we gave one to tax administration. The first one we gave to the taxpayer was to make tax clearance a 60-second matter.
1 minute.
What we also want to get as tax administrator is that the impute VAT that were claimed fictitiously in the past, we stop it. You celebrated one, but you resisted the second one. So that is the change and the resistance we are talking about. Then the slow pace of reform processes. You may have very beautiful ideas, but you cannot sign those ideas, you cannot process those ideas, and they become law. And even if they are passed into law, thank God Mr. President is a taxman, like I said before, but before the processes that these beautiful reform ideas pass through, before they get to the final bus stop, which is the Mr. President table, takes a long time. So these are just the three things that have occurred to me immediately that are likely to be the challenge. But with the willpower of the Mr. President and the fact that the country needs money, the country needs fund, the government at all levels need fund for them to be able to live up to the expectation of the voters, I think we are likely to get to the end of this exercise before end of the year, and we shall celebrate success and come back to talk to you.
Amen. Thank you so much for that very great response. I know we truly do not have time again, and what I wanted to just ask you on a closing note is, you're a member of the institute also, and you know that we have all of these dreams that you have mentioned here to become a reality for Nigeria. And how would you like to encourage? You have the backing of the institute, so how would you like to encourage us how would it impact the lives of the people, of our taxpayers and everyone that is listening, even as members of the institute?
Well, the first one for government is that if the reforms we are talking about are to be carried out, they will be the first beneficiary, because there will be a revitalized tax policy function at some key ministry, department, and agency. So issues of tax law, tax law formulation,
Okay.
the tax law implementation will become an easy one.
Okay.
And then we are going to have for government also modernize and up-to-date tax laws,
Okay.
which will benefit the taxpayers, the critical stakeholders, the consultant, because it's going to be written in a simple and clear language.
Okay.
And the third thing I think will happen is that we are going to have an harmonized tax system, which will be characterized as a policy, legislation, and administration at federal and state level that will be in a position to generate more money that are required, that will provide a basis for ease of paying taxes and ease of doing business for also the taxpayers.
Excellent.
Number 4 was that there is going to be few taxes at both state and federal level. So, Mr. President, concern on multiplicity of taxes will be addressed. I've said that 3 times in the course of my answering questions that you have asked, that we are suggesting we should have between 4 to 5 or maximum 6 tax types in the whole of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the remaining ones are abolished.
Thank you
We are going
so
to
much.
have a fully automated and data-driven tax administration and revenue collection systems, which will ensure transparency and accountability. So these are the few things that we hope we should be able to get.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, sir. We appreciate. We have actually run out of time, but would like to say thank you so much for accepting to be here the second time. And we truly appreciate all of the reforms that you have mentioned here. So on behalf of the Institute and ourselves, we'd like to say thank you for joining. And Tosin, over to you.
Thank you very much, our chairman. I'm sure you agree with me that we need a part 3 of this program so that we can actually exhaust all about
provided ICAN will pay me sitting allowance.
You want to say?
I'm done with ICAN TV for ICAN on air for the year, but we'll see again immediately after the reforms becomes reality, so that we're going to be in a position to speak and discuss the issues that will follow the reforms that is going to be passed to law at the end of the year.
Thank you very much. Our dear professional colleagues and our global viewers, you agree with me that today's program is worth the while, very educating and highly instructive. And that is the show for today. We want to thank you for being part of this show on behalf of the producers and editorial team at large. Till we come your way again with another guest and another topical issue, please stay safe and sound. I'm Tosin Akinwumi with my lovely screen goddess here, Fumi Olaniyi. We say, have a pleasant night rest.
Good evening.
Bye.